And now I would like to welcome our next presenter, if he's ready. Yes.
Yep.
Professor John Hughes, Dr. John Hughes from United Kingdom, who is going to be speaking about the acceptability, safety, and effectiveness of self-acupuncture, a program of research. Welcome, and thank you.
Thank you, and ahoy from London. Firstly, thank you, Thomas, and the organisers for the invitation and opportunity to speak at this important event. And apologies for delivering my talk remotely rather than in person. And few of the previous presenters have mentioned COVID. We have a new variant in the UK at the moment, and unfortunately myself and a number of people at the hospital I'm based at are currently COVID positive, and hence the remote delivery. So apologies for that. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully you can all see the slides. So yeah, I'm John Hughes. I'm the head of research at the Royal London Hospital for Integrated Medicine, which is part of UCLH NHS Trust, and is the white building for you, I presume, the right of the screen as you're looking at it. And I'm also an associate professor in integrative medicine based at the University of West London. And like the was mentioned when I was introduced, I'll be giving a talk around the acceptability, safety and effectiveness of self-acupuncture. But I'll just give you a bit of details really about the hospital first, so you know a bit more about us. So basically, Royal London Hospital for Integrated Medicine is one of the largest public sector providers of integrated medicine within Europe. We offer patient-centred service which integrates the best of conventional and complementary treatment approaches. All our clinics are led by statutory regulated health professionals, so medical doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, who will have completed their medical training and will have completed, in addition, some training in complementary or integrative approaches as well. The hospital runs on an outpatient clinic basis, and we treat a range of conditions at the hospital. Some of our largest patient groups would be for musculoskeletal conditions and insomnia. Is probably one of our other largest patient groups. The treatments that we deliver at the hospital include acupuncture, Tai Chi, yoga, mindfulness, as well as other psychological therapies such as CBT, hypnosis, and autogenic training. I should point out that as a public sector provider of integrative medicine, we need to ensure that the treatments we deliver are completely evidence-based, and really all the treatments that we deliver at the hospital are those treatments contained within the current UK NICE guidelines, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. I should mention as well that the hospital is also a WHO collaborating centre in integrative medicine. We were awarded that status 3 years ago now. One of 27, I believe, currently WHO collaborating centres within traditional complementary or integrative medicine within the world, and one of only 3 within Europe. As part of that agreement with the WHO, we're assisting them on a number of areas, in particular the development of competency standards in traditional complementary and integrative medicine, identifying good practice within TCI, traditional complementary integrative medicine, We're assisting them with the development of the traditional medicine ICD codes, International Classification of Diseases codes. They've recently developed the ICD codes based on traditional Chinese medicine and are in the process of developing the next phase, which will be based on Indian medicine. And we're also working with them to identify the role of traditional complementary and integrative medicine in combating antimicrobial resistance. In terms of research at the hospital, I head the WHO Collaborating Centre, and I head the research at the hospital as well. The research department's received over £1 million in research funding, including awards from the National Institute for Health Research in the UK, as well as funds from the World Health Organization. We've disseminated research in over 200 peer-reviewed academic journal publications, and we supervise a number of postgraduate research in collaboration with UK universities. Currently, we've got 4 PhD students and a couple of MSc students with us, and approximately about 20 research projects that we've got ongoing at the moment at the hospital. One of the main areas that we've been looking at the hospital is around self-acupuncture, and specifically, can we teach patients? So within the NICE guidelines, acupuncture is there for headaches, migraines, and chronic primary pain conditions. So conventional medicine accepts that acupuncture is beneficial for certain conditions. It's also routinely provided in the UK within cancer care. And what we want to explore is whether we can teach patients to self-acupuncture, and whether that would be an acceptable, safe and effective intervention for patients to be able to self-manage their own conditions. So in brief, self-acupuncture just involves teaching patients to insert a limited number of acupuncture needles into points on their own body to enable them to self-manage their own symptoms. We've actually taught self-acupuncture at the hospital since the 1970s, and we know that other institutions, not just in the UK, but globally, have also been teaching patients self-acupuncture for a number of years as well. But despite the prevalence of self-acupuncture globally, there is very limited data, either from research or service evaluations, audits, around the intervention of self-acupuncture. So we wanted to do something about that. So we've got a program of research currently ongoing at the hospital looking into the acceptability, safety and effectiveness of self-acupuncture. And I'm going to quickly give a brief overview of 6 different research studies which we've have either recently just completed or currently ongoing. And that includes a qualitative service evaluation of self-acupuncture for chronic pain, a survey of acupuncturists' experiences of teaching self-acupuncture, a survey of students' views on the acceptability, safety and effectiveness of self-acupuncture, systematic review of the published literature on self-acupuncture, and 2 feasibility trials. One is looking at self-acupuncture in chemotherapy cancer patients, and the other at self-acupuncture for patients. So starting with the first of those, and which was the first one that we published. So one of the first things we did, we knew we were doing self-acupuncture at the hospital, so we conducted a qualitative service evaluation to get an understanding of patients' experiences. How were they coping in terms of delivering self-acupuncture on themselves, and was it effective? It's a service evaluation because we were asking patients about a treatment that they were receiving at the hospital. So therefore, we did not require NHS ethical approval to collect this data. In brief, we conducted 15 semi-structured interviews with chronic pain patients who had been taught self-acupuncture to get an understanding of their experiences. The interviews were audio recorded and transcribed verbatim, and the transcripts were analysed using thematic analysis. In brief, in terms of the results of that evaluation, all of the participants indicated that they'd been able to successfully apply self-acupuncture with no serious incidents or adverse effects reported. The only minor adverse effects were reported were those similar that you get with acupuncture, maybe some bruising at an acupoint or some minor bleeding, which were deemed acceptable to the patients. The patients perceived the self-acupuncture as assisting them to manage the symptoms of pain, and although it should be noted that the effects were perceived as being less pronounced than when they'd received acupuncture delivered by a trained acupuncturist. Importantly, the patients felt more empowered after learning self-acupuncture and reported improvements to their lifestyle and quality of life as a result of learning the technique. All of the patients indicated that they would recommend self-acupuncture to other chronic pain patients. If anybody wants any more details on that study, it was published in the European Journal of Integrative Medicine in 2020. We then moved on to looking at acupuncturists' teaching of self-acupuncture, because again, although this was a prevalent intervention, nobody had actually researched how many acupuncturists were delivering self-acupuncture or teaching self-acupuncture, or how they teach self-acupuncture to their patients. So again, we aim to address that gap in the evidence, and we conducted an online UK survey of acupuncturists. We recruited 138 acupuncturists, 19% of whom had taught self-acupuncture. And what we found was that the most common symptoms for which acupuncturists were teaching self-acupuncture were for pain, nausea, anxiety, hot flushes, headaches, migraines, and breathlessness. And the 6 most commonly taught points which acupuncturists were teaching patients to self-acupuncture were large intestine 4, stomach 36, spleen 6, pericardium 6, liver 3, and triple energizer 5. Interestingly, none of the acupuncturists who had been teaching patients how to do self-acupuncture had reported any incidents of their patients reporting any serious adverse effects from self-acupuncture. So again, it appeared to be a safe intervention for patients to use. That study was published in the Acupuncture in Medicine just last year, if anybody's interested in it. And what we did from the findings was to develop some guidelines around self-acupuncture. So for other acupuncturists to then follow, which can be seen in the current slide, and includes guidelines around how many sessions to deliver it over, the amount of time to teach for patients, what supplementary information, such as written instructions, photographs, learning it provided, as well as things like the main acupuncture points that appear to be safe to teach to patients. And again, as we need to know really what patients or potential patients, how acceptable it would be for them to use, we did a study looking to explore students' perceptions of self-acupuncture as an intervention. So whether they would deem this to be an intervention that could be acceptable to them should they have a condition that would require treatment with acupuncture or self-acupuncture. So we recruited just over 50 students, all based in London. 15% of them had previously received treatment with acupuncture, and surprisingly for us, half of the students had heard of self-acupuncture as an intervention. In terms of the effectiveness of both acupuncture and self-acupuncture, they actually rated on a Likert scale them to be of similar effectiveness. And in brief, the students felt that it would be an acceptable intervention for them. I'm going to whiz through the last 3. We've just submitted a paper to, again, Acupuncture in Medicine, of a systematic review of self-acupuncture studies. Very briefly, one randomized controlled trial, only one randomized controlled trial has been published on the intervention, a mixed methods feasibility study, one pilot study, a couple of qualitative studies, and this includes the qualitative evaluation I mentioned. We evaluated the quality of those papers using the MMAT. Mostly good quality research papers, and again, the systematic review indicates that self-acupuncture appears to be effective, safe, and acceptable to patients. There was a number of published case studies of adverse effects, but they were all largely patients who hadn't been taught how to do the intervention. Now, I know I'm out of time, so I'm going to be super quick, but yeah, we're currently doing a feasibility trial of self-acupuncture for chemotherapy cancer patients, currently recruiting at the Macmillan Cancer Centre in London, looking for 80 patients, 60 of whom will be taught the intervention, and they are taught the intervention in a 1.5-hour group workshop, and they're taught between 2 and 6 points. And one of the PhD students at the hospital is doing a feasibility trial, which is currently under ethical review, again, and that will be to teach migraine patients self-acupuncture. Apologies for the quickness at the end, and yeah. The conclusions from all of the studies to date, the data suggests that self-acupuncture appears to be acceptable, safe, feasible, and an effective intervention to enable patients to self-manage their symptoms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hughes, for your contribution. Self-acupuncture is something that many of us wouldn't even think of. And so it is such an interesting topic, of course, with proper education and training. It's an incredible modality that we can help ourselves with. And so we are very grateful for your contribution and telling us about this. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much. Thank you.